Hello, 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 everybody. This is Reverend Karen coming at you with another Fearlessly Feral Living podcast. And today we are going to talk about spiritual integrity. Mostly, I want to suggest in this podcast that spiritual integrity and personal integrity are very closely linked. And I want to provide some examples of how we can be in integrity with our spiritual values and out of integrity with them, and what to do if we find ourselves out of integrity. But first, let's do the introduction. Once again, this is Reverend Karen coming at you broadcasting to you from the Woogie Ranch out here in the back 40 of northwestern Nevada, where I'm a half an hour away from the nearest gas station and the nearest grocery store. Our mission here at Fearlessly Feral Living is to provide a strong and unshakable inner foundation that works for long-term successful living. Our purpose is to activate inner self-awareness, and our vision is a world in which everyone lives wild and free. So, I want to begin today with a quote from Ernest Holmes. He had this to say about integrity, and I love this quote. He said, "The integrity of the universe cannot be questioned nor doubted. The spirit must be and is perfect. That which is back of everything must be good, must be complete, must be love and harmony. When we are out of harmony with some special good, it is because we are off the track along that particular line of the activity of spirit." So what does it look like to be out of harmony with something good? What does it look like to be off the track along that particular line of the activity of spirit? Well, I can tell you it doesn't feel good. We might be feeling lonely. Excuse me, but I got a cat coming over here. This is Walter. This is Walter. Get down. Go on. I know it's a hard life. Thank you very much. If you're at all friends with me on Facebook, you know about Walter. Walter is not out of integrity with anything. He just does his thing. Okay, here we go. Back to the podcast. I'm going to let this ride because this is all part of life. It's all good and very good. And I actually love Walter very much. So when we are out of harmony with something good, or when we're off the track along that particular line of activity of spirit, I can tell you it does not feel good. You might be feeling lonely if you're out of integrity, or you might be feeling not a part of, or you might just be feeling generally icky, like no energy, no motivation to do things. Now, admittedly, there's a lot of other reasons for feeling this way, and I am not a doctor. So if you're feeling generally icky, physically or mentally, and it goes on and nothing you seem to do can help it, go see a doctor. This is just stuff that goes along with life sometimes. And I can tell you that if we're out of integrity, yeah, we might feel lonely. We might feel out of touch. We might feel separate from. It's all part of the deal. Here's another aspect of being out of integrity. We got secrets. There's something we're doing that we don't want to tell anybody about, or there's something we're thinking that we don't want to tell anybody about, or there's something else that we're saying that we don't want to tell anybody about. I've often counseled my clients that if they're taking actions that they don't want to tell anybody about, they're out of integrity. The actions they're taking are not in integrity with their values, and they need to take a look at that. So when we keep secrets, we have to ask ourselves why. If you're keeping secrets, do yourself a favor and investigate why you think you need to hide any part of yourself or your actions. Chances are you'll find you're out of integrity with some part of your values or your belief system, or you need to change your beliefs or your values. Being out of integrity also can look like lack and limitation. We're broke all the time. Or we feel like we can't do stuff, like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Can't go left, can't go right. We're just stuck. That's what being out of integrity looks like. It also looks like fear. It looks like saying one thing and doing another. Being out of integrity looks like we have to justify our actions or our words. So I have some news for you. A person in integrity will never feel the need to justify nor defend their actions. And I'm going to repeat that because it's important. A person living in integrity will never feel the need to justify or defend their actions or their words. In other words, being out of integrity is just the opposite of what it looks like to live fearlessly feral. Because being in integrity means we live out loud. We have no secrets. We have no shame. We have no blame. We're not blaming ourselves or others. We feel confident and we have good, healthy self-esteem. So what is this thing called integrity and how can we tell if we're out of it? Well, in science of mind terms, integrity is wholeness. This is spiritual integrity I'm talking about. We teach that God is everywhere present, including in and as us, that we are a part of God and it is a part of us. So being in integrity is fully acknowledging our God selves, feeling the wholeness of spirit as us. God embodies as us. We are, as Holmes says, individualized and unique manifestations of God. We're a part of God and it is a part of us. Now, because of that, everything we say and believe about God, we must also say and believe about ourselves. Because if we're saying it about God, but we're not saying it about ourselves, we are out of integrity with ourselves. Think about that. So Ernest Holmes puts it like this in the Science of Mind textbook. He says, what is true in the macro or the big picture is also true for the micro. So in this case, in this example, God is the macro. We humans are the micro. So what's true for God is also true for us. And if we aren't acting as if we are little godlings running around on this green earth, we're out of integrity with ourselves. If we're not embodying all those attributes of spirit that we assign to God on a regular basis, we're out of integrity with ourselves. So think about that. All those attributes, all those qualities that we use to describe God. And here's some that Holmes uses to describe it: love, wisdom, intelligence, power, substance, mind. All those qualities of spirit are also true about us. We are love. We are wise. We are intelligent. We have power. We have substance. Those are all attributes of spirit. I like to sometimes refer to them as love, light, peace, power, joy, and beauty. I call the attributes of spirit guides for living. So I get to look at those attributes of spirit and be those. Those are my guides. Those are my mission statements, if you will. I get to be love. I get to show up in life and radiate light everywhere I go. I get to be so peaceful that that peace spreads like honey all over everything I come in contact with. I get to claim my personal power by taking responsibility for my thoughts and my deeds. My job is to be joyful. My job is to embody beauty to such a point that I see beauty wherever I go. And that's a clue. If you don't see beauty wherever you go, where are we seeing that beauty from? We're seeing it from inside ourselves. If you're not seeing the beauty in life, go within and check it out. There's something going on in there. When we do this, and let's face it, we're human. We're not going to be perfect at this all the time. But when we do this, then we feel our oneness with God. Then we are integrity. Then we can not only say that chant that we like to say around here. If you've ever gone to a center for spiritual living, you might have heard it. There is but one life. That life is God's life. And that life is my life now. There is but one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And that life is my life now. Try saying that to yourself over and over again. There is but one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And that life is my life now. When we say that and when we feel that inside, we are in integrity. We feel whole and complete. We are in spiritual integrity, which means we have no secrets and we don't ever feel the need to justify or defend our actions or our opinions. And when we're not in integrity, it doesn't feel right. And when I don't feel right, I don't know about you, but when I don't feel right, I don't behave at my best. I'm certainly not ready to receive my highest and best good. And I might begin to take actions that are in conflict with my values because I'm out of integrity. So let's look at how this works. As humans, we're always a choice. We can choose not to embody those qualities of spirit. We can choose judgment and hatred. We can choose to sow seeds of discontent, both in ourselves and others. We can refuse to claim our power by pointing fingers of blame at others. You realize that every time you blame anyone or anything else for anything at all, you are disempowering yourself. We can move through life with a frown, and we can embody ugliness instead of beauty. We can be basically unhappy people, victims of life's shenanigans and changes in events, and always finding something to complain about. And we never really feel at peace or at ease. We're never really feeling the joy. And sometimes we do this without even consciously realizing it. We might only be aware of a vague sense that, geez, I just don't feel a part of it all. A vague sense of not fitting in. Those all are symptoms of not being in integrity with ourselves. And here's some definitions. Here's a definition of integrity, because integrity means different things to different people, obviously. And again, there's spiritual integrity and personal integrity. And I believe that personal integrity stems from a spiritual integrity. Spiritual integrity is about the wholeness I spoke to earlier. Personal integrity comes from our spiritual integrity. Everything begins within. So if we're not in integrity with ourselves spiritually, we won't be in personal integrity either. This is when we find ourselves, for example, not living up to our commitments, saying one thing and doing another, not being completely honest, or another form of dishonesty is withholding information or bits and pieces of ourselves from people we say we love. Being out of integrity means we're keeping secrets. We're justifying or defending our actions. We're blaming others. We're judging others. And oh my God, can I just say something about judgment here? What I see going on right now in the world in terms of judgment is just mind-boggling. What part of judge not, lest ye be judged do people not get? That's about personal integrity, folks. We don't judge, period. Here's the deal. Judging others for their choices is a huge red flag that shows lack of integrity. When we are judging others, there's only one of two things going on. Either we're judging someone or something for doing something that we also do that we don't particularly appreciate about ourselves, or we got something going on that we don't want to take a look at. So we're projecting. We're looking at others and going, oh man, you don't dress right, or you're all messed up, or whatever it is we're saying about other people. Judgment is always about ourselves, and it's never about them. And I've got news for you. Every time we judge someone, it's always going to come back and bite us in the ass. We're not in integrity when we judge others for dressing in a way that we would not dress. They're a choice just like we are. When we judge others for having a different sexual preference than we do, when we judge others for having a different gender identity than whatever, we do not have permission to judge, guys, period. We do not have permission to judge. And if we do judge, we're out of integrity with ourselves, and we're only hurting ourselves. So don't judge. Just do yourself a favor. Don't judge at all. Got on my soapbox there. Sorry. Being in spiritual integrity is about feeling in a state of 24/7 communion with that great reality deep within us, that thing itself, that universal power that is everywhere present. That's wholeness. And when we feel that, we are in integrity. And when we're in integrity, we have trust, we have faith, and we don't have fear. And when we have faith, we act differently than we do when we're in fear, right? When we act in integrity, when we have faith, we are acting in integrity with ourselves. That it all goes hand in hand. When I'm feeling whole and complete and I'm recognizing my oneness with spirit and I'm behaving in integrity with my values, I have clarity about what is mine to do in this world. When I'm this way, when I'm in communion with a God of my understanding, I don't feel any fear. And because I don't feel any fear, I don't make bad choices. Because let's face it, when we're coming from a place of fear, we do stupid stuff. We verbally attack, we blame, we separate ourselves from others with walls, we fight, we resist. When we feel fear, we choose differently than when we are feeling faith or love. When we are feeling fear, we're not feeling faith or trust. And when we don't feel faith or trust, chances are we're going to act on that. Honestly, when we vote with our wallets instead of for goodness and wholeness, that's a lack of trust and a lack of integrity. When we judge others for the clothes they wear or the differences in the way they live, we are out of integrity. When we allow books to be banned, whether it's from apathy or it's not my issue or whatever, we're out of integrity. When we stand by and refuse to speak up when women are being prevented from making their own medical decisions, we're out of integrity. When we shame people who simply want to live whole in the world, we're out of integrity. And I got news for you guys. I'm disgusted with all of it. I'm disgusted with the subtle little things that are happening in social media that are making people think it's a good thing to go back to the era of the 50s and the 60s. Ooh, ew, ew. I'm just disgusted with all of it. I'm disgusted with judging women for the clothes that they wear. That speaks to a misogyny that is so widespread in this society. I'm disgusted with people who vote for dishonest criminals. I just am. And yeah, in my disgust, you might think that I'm being out of integrity with my values, but see, there's where personal self-awareness comes in. There's where knowing our own values comes in. I'm not out of integrity. I'm speaking my word. I know what my values are. They are love and goodness and wholeness and joy and peace and power. Voting with my wallet takes all my power away. It shows mistrust. Judging others for anything at all, it shows a lack of faith. Shaming people for making their own personal choices, whether it's for gender preferences or sexual preferences or whatever, that's all stuff that's out of integrity. That's not what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here is refusing to allow bad things to happen in this world by speaking out. I am speaking out against it, and I will continue to speak out against it. Spiritual bypass says I would just remain in the background and stay silent when all this stuff is going on, when people are banning books and taking away human rights and doing all this stuff. No, no, not standing up to that is spiritual bypass. And the last time we went into spiritual bypass, Hitler came to power. So there's the deal right there. There are so many people in this country that are out of integrity, and this is contributing to the separation that's going on. So yeah, I'm going to continue to speak out about it. I'm going to continue to shout it from the rooftops that our job is to be peaceful and loving and whole, and to embody the qualities of spirit that we talk about around here. If you're Christian, I'm going to continue to shout it from the rooftops that your job is to be as Jesus was. And you know what? Jesus spoke out against it too. So think about that. Think about that. Being in spiritual integrity means we do not bypass stuff that we don't really want to look at. It means we look at everything. We don't hide the unpleasantness. That stuff has to be brought out into the light of healing. And part of our responsibility is to speak out about it. Honestly, this is why I felt called to do this podcast on spiritual integrity. You know, I went back through my archives and I found a talk that I gave once on spiritual integrity. It looks nothing like this does. I've changed so much over the years, so much. So if you're anything like me and you're trying to live in integrity and you're seeing what's going on in the world, you hurt. I hurt. If I could wave a magic wand and all of a sudden people would be free from fear and all the actions that stem from that, I would. Instead, I created Fearlessly Feral Living. And I use things like this podcast and my blogs and my social media to speak out. I show up as all those qualities of spirit, and I demonstrate what living fearlessly feral can look like. And I hope that more and more folks will be attracted to that instead of to fear and to judgment. I speak out about what it looks like to live fearlessly feral and what it looks like when we don't. And I speak endlessly about spiritual practices because that's where it all begins and ends. And I will continue to do so. When we consciously and actively set an intention to be in 24/7 communion with spirit and to pray without ceasing, in whatever way prayer looks for us, when we consciously realize the presence of God in and as and through us, we cannot feel fear and we cannot do the unproductive things that we do behind fear. When we are in spiritual integrity, we are one with God and God is one with us. When we're in spiritual integrity, we are feeling the force. And when this happens, we intuitively know the answers to things that used to baffle us. We're not fighting anything or anyone. We're at peace with ourselves and with everyone around us. We don't question our integrity, nor do we doubt it. We bask in it. We enjoy the warmth and the beauty and the joy of living. And we enjoy expressing our truth. And we live in love. We're in love with life, And yes, all is indeed well. So if you're moving through life denying your own perfection, your own godliness, and you're living out of spiritual integrity, sit down for a bit and get quiet and commune. If you're living through life, if you're moving through life and feeling as if you don't fit in or you're feeling as if you're separate, sit down for a while and get quiet and commune. If you're moving through life and you're judging and you're hating and you're disapproving of others and you're not appreciating the diversity of life and the unique individual godliness of each and every person you meet, sit down and get quiet and commune. And know that you are an individualized and unique manifestation of spirit, that you are one with God. One with God. When we remember our oneness, we remember our wholeness, and then we can't help but live in spiritual integrity. So that's the conclusion of this podcast. Sit down, be quiet, do some contemplation, some introspection, commune with yourself and with that great reality deep within yourself called God or spirit or whatever you want to call it. Become one with that. Experience your own wholeness as a unique and individualized manifestation of spirit. And then move forth in the world, living fearlessly feral. So I thank you very much for living, for living. I thank you also very much for listening and for your support. And I am knowing that any support you send this way to support this podcast and all the other work that we do in the world comes back to you multiplied. Fearlessly Feral Living is a focused ministry of Centers for Spiritual Living. Your support is much appreciated and fully tax deductible. You can support the podcast by listening at buzzsprout.com. You can support us by donating on our PayPal page, and you can get all of that information in both the show notes and at our website at fearlesslyferal.org. In the meantime, I am knowing fearlessly feral living for me and for you. Thank you very much for listening.